Bienvenue, hello everyone, and welcome to French Cinémathèque, a collaboration between the Fédération des Alliances Françaises USA, AFUSA, and Telescope Film. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Renee Ketchum, and I'm the coordinator of One Film, One Federation for AFUSA. We're delighted to be collaborating on this program with Telescope Film. Telescope offers a database of over 500,000 international films and series with links to where to watch them in the United States. They also have a dedicated page on the site for French film and television with information about what's new and what's popular from France, as well as curated selections. You can find links to more information about both AFUSA and Telescope Film in the chat. AFUSA is the largest Alliance Française network in the world, helping 25,000 learners of French each year learn French, live French, and love French. The French Cinémathèque will take place the fourth Monday of every month. Next month, on June 24th, we'll be here talking about The Taste of Things, which premiered in competition at the Cannes Film Festival last year, where the director Tran Anh won the prize for Best Director. It's a wonderful film, and you're really going to enjoy it. A few logistics. Please stay on mute during the presentation. Stay on speaker view. You can put your questions in the chat or raise your hand using the Zoom feature. And if you have any technical issues, sign back in after a couple of minutes with the original Zoom link. This event is being recorded for the YouTube channel, and the total runtime is 1 hour. So I am thrilled again to welcome Aude Hesbert, who is currently the head of film and TV for the Ville Albertine in Los Angeles and a French film industry expert to talk about this wonderful film, Un prophète. Welcome, Aude.
Thank you very much, Renee. It's such a great pleasure to see you all today again for our monthly rendezvous with French cinema. And as you know, the Festival de Cannes is now in full swing, and none of us are there, but we wanted you to feel a little bit of the vibe of the festival in choosing A Prophet by Jacques Audiard, whose musical Emilia Pérez is one of the bold front runner of this year's competition, and one of the favorite contenders from what I've heard so far. So we'll see in a few days. Jacques Audiard, now an acclaimed international figure, comes from a cinematic lineage as the son of noted screenwriter and director Michel Audiard, renowned for his distinctive and prolific contribution to French cinema from the 50s to the 70s. He became a legend for his sharp wit and colorful dialogues peppered with argot memorable quips. And I can't resist the pleasure today of quoting one of Les Tontons Flingueurs, one of his films. So I'm going to just... Non, mais t'as déjà vu ça? En pleine paix, il chante et puis craque un bourre-pif. Il est complètement fou, ce mec. Moi, les dingues, je les soigne. Je vais lui faire une ordonnance et une sévère. Aux quatre coins de Paris, qu'on va le retrouver éparpillé par petits bouts façon puzzle. Moi, quand on m'en fait trop, je correctionne plus. Je dynamite, je disperse, je ventile. Well, this was short, but I hope it will be a spicy invitation to go straight to the Alliance Française for French lessons and learn slang because it's so poetic, and to Telescope Films to check out where his films are streamed in the US. But let's go back to Jacques, way more serious than his father in regards of what cinema should be. Certainly not a joke. His earlier works include Read My Lips and The Beat That My Heart Skipped, which won a César Award for Best Director. His international breakthrough came with A Prophet in 2009, which was awarded with Le Grand Prix at Cannes Film Festival and received an Academy Award nomination for Best Foreign Language Film. Other notable works include Rust and Bone and Dipan, that some of you might have seen, and Dipan won the Palme d'Or at Cannes Film Festival. Jacques Audiard even ventured into American filmmaking with The Sisters Brothers, starring John C. Reilly, who also produced the film, and Joaquin Phoenix. But A Prophet undoubtedly stands as a testament to Audiard's skillful direction and the profound storytelling capacities of contemporary French cinema. The stellar performances of Tahar Rahim and Nils Astrup are not foreign to this success. The film's lead, Tahar Rahim, is a French actor of Algerian descent. He has carved a niche for himself in the world of cinema with his profound and versatile performances. His portrayal of Malik in A Prophet earned him widespread acclaim, including a César Award for Most Promising Actor. Nobody knew him before and everybody knew him after. That's for sure. Following his success in France, Rahim did not confine his talent to French cinema. His international appeal was evident as he embraced roles across different cultures and languages. Notably, his performance in the British miniseries The Serpent, where he played the chilling, real-life figure of a serial killer, earning him critical praise. Now, Nils Astrup, the second major role of this film, is a frequent collaborator with Audiard and brings a formidable presence to his role as the Corsican mafia boss, Cesar Luciani, embodying the brutal and calculating aspects of prison power dynamics. Astrup is an emblematic figure of French cinema and theater. His transition from stage to film was marked by his breakthrough role in the film The Desert of the Tartars, directed by Valerio Zurlini in 1976. His performance in A Prophet won him the César Award for Best Supporting Actor. And throughout his career, Astrup has continued to draw acclaim with roles in films like War Horse, directed by Steven Spielberg himself. And in Quai d'Orsay in 2013, he demonstrated his flair for comedy as well, portraying a wily French foreign minister. The score of A Prophet was also shaped by one of our best artists, Alexandre Desplat, and I'm sure some of you know his name. Twice an Oscar winner for the Grand Budapest Hotel by Wes Anderson and The Shape of Water by Guillermo del Toro, and 7-time Academy Award nominated for his prolific filmography, working with masters like Stephen Frears, Terrence Malick, Ang Lee, Catherine Bigelow, among many others. Because of the challenges of writing, casting, building, and filming, it took nearly 5 years for Prophet to be made. And though instantly the film was declared a classic, perfect film. But now it's high time for you to speak, and I'm very curious to hear your thoughts. I don't know if some of you have seen the film when it was released, or if you discovered it only with this session, but I'm very curious to start with to hear your thought about the film. Maureen, hello, happy to see you.
I guess I'm going to kickstart this conversation that I have to say was very difficult to watch the first 15 minutes. And I would say, I can't deal with this. It was very dark and very violent, especially the murder of that Egyptian. But I was intrigued and I thought, okay, I need to take a break and I'll watch it. I'll continue. And I'm glad I did because it evolved. And I truly liked the ending. So the bottom line, from my opinion, I like happy endings. Sometimes French movies are not always tied with a bow at the end, but I truly appreciate the ending. So, but the bottom line is I'm glad I watched it in its entirety.
Thank you, Maureen. Anyone else would like to share his reaction about the film? Terrence?
Anthony has his hand up.
Anthony. Oh, once again, I can't see the people raising their hands. Anthony.
Oh, I did. Thank you. First off, I watched the whole film and I had an experience very similar to Maureen's. I watched about 15 minutes and it got so violent I had to stop. But I picked it up again and I'm glad I did. It's almost like it was two films. It was the first 15 minutes of terror, followed by an hour and a half of an interesting drama. Having said that, I found the film to be extremely unpredictable. You know, protagonist almost dies. Protagonist is I guess Sicilian, the Corsican mafia. That he's part of the Muslim mafia, and it felt like a ping pong ball bouncing around, which made the film really excellent.
Thank you, Anthony. Anyone else? I'm afraid I'm not sure I'm seeing everybody raising his hand, so. on my side, I seen the film when it was released, and like you, I remember this awful violence, that shock of seeing this film. But when I saw it again to prepare this session, the violence seemed less striking and maybe more meaningful. And I think it's important that it's not a violence that is just there for violence, and it's not very good. It's not good, free at all. It really has a sense, and it is made to start the film where it wants to go. Anyone else?
Yeah, I kind of like the movie also, the film, and I thought that I found the main character kind of cute in the sense that you know how he learns how to speak Italian just by listening to the others, and also how he grows you know, over the film, and he becomes an entrepreneur, and very successful at that. And I love the scene where he's at the beach, and then later he takes the sand from his shoes, thinking about his experience at the beach. I really like the film.
Thank you. Thank you, Sylvia. So maybe we can start with a more concrete question, and I'd like to know how did you, can you comment on the French jail, the representation of jails this film presented? Would you say it's realistic, or what were your impressions?
Anne has her hand up, Aude.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. So I have a comment about that. Of course, I have no experience of knowing or reason to know what jails are like, but it just was such a sad world that we witnessed in that film. All those people, you know, just a sad world that they were in, and it was shocking. I mean, and of course the opening scene, the violence of the opening was shocking, but the whole thing was just sad to see people that are in that world and living that way and doing the things they were doing. It was overwhelmingly sad.
Thank you, Anne.
Pascal has her hand up, Aude.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, Renee, I think you have to tell everyone.
Okay, that's okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I couldn't find my mute. So like you, Aude, I saw it when it came out, and I rewatched it just for this conversation. And I don't remember. I remember that I liked it when it came out, but I didn't. I'm not sure I remembered how poetic this movie is, and it's so weird to say that for a movie that is in jail for most of the time that we see the scenes. All the scenes are mostly in a jail, and it's awful and it's ugly, and yet I was amazed by the poetic side of the movie, and definitely it comes from Audiard and his incredible mastery of cinema. But the fact that you can find like a beauty, extreme beauty in a place like a jail, and in that also not just a jail, in that kind of people, not that, I'm sorry, it came out wrong, but it's that's just the juxtaposition of the two that really amazed me.
You're totally right, Pascal. It's a mixture of realism for sure, but also of poetry and beauty. And there's a dreamlike atmosphere most of the time that balances the tone of the film. And it's interesting to Maureen has her hand up. Maureen?
No, I don't want to interrupt that. I don't want you to lose your thought. I can wait.
No, go ahead.
Okay. I thought how incredibly sad how circumstances really determined his future, because I think the crime was committed when he was a minor, and then he aged into when he became 18. And I thought how incredibly sad, because his life might have ended up differently rather than committing all these atrocities. But he was also so innocent that he was morally conflicted. This was not in his being. And remember that the reoccurrence of the Egyptian that he murdered, the ghost that would, test or poke into his conscience. It was kind of creepy, but yet I think it was an important element in the movie to have him come back. Oh, here he is again. Now what is he going to tell him? But, despite what the protagonist did, he was a good guy. You do what you can for survival, and that's what you do. It was, he portrayed such a sympathetic figure despite what he had to commit. He had no choice. You do what you do to survive in those circumstances. But I felt a lot of, I felt for him, no matter, even though he was doing all these things. But anyway, so
Yeah,
that's my comment to that.
thank you, Maureen.
Mira has her hand up.
Okay, Mira.
Sorry, unmuting. Hi, it's my first time with you guys, so thank you for doing this. I wanted to say, I have three short things to say. Number one, just a response about the prison. It's interesting because I just finished Le Jour d'Avant, the book by Chalandon, also an Alliance Française assignment. And in it, there is a description of the protagonist is about to, go to prison, and his lawyer tells him, and this is also around the same time period, early the 2010s, it tells him, whatever you do not go out into the yard until you get your bearings, until you know who's who, because you will get the crap beat out of you if you do. And that's what happens in this thing. That's what happened in this. And that was in response to your question of, did the prison scenes and bits seem authentic? Well, I wouldn't know, but I will say it's consistent through between this film and the literary work that or contemporary literary work I just read. Second thing, I loved his line, even though, in some ways it sounds kind of cheesy, but he was very consistent, our protagonist. He was very consistent. And when people would say, oh, do you work for the Corsicans? Do you work for them? He's like, no, I work for myself. And it's like, this guy knows how to figure out, where he's going and what he needs. And, there's a bit of blind faith, and he is sort of, there's a bit of that magical stuff going on, which we may be talking about. But I really, I was sold. I was on his side when he started saying those things. And then the third thing is that, we started this conversation and everybody's talking about how violent the film was. And because I just watched it few days ago, and my memory's not that bad, but that's not what resonated with me. I think somebody else said that too. That is absolutely not what resonated. And I powered through. I guess I just, didn't have to stop. What resonated was some of the beautiful things. And, I love the image of the ghost, as someone called him, doing spinning, doing the Sufi chanting and that sort of thing. I love that. But it was just interesting how everybody's gut reaction was a little bit different to this film. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Mira. And to get back to this jail and prison issue, it's interesting to hear that Jacques Audiard couldn't film in a prison because it's forbidden. But of course, he did lots of research, and he needed to build his own sets. And he really recreated the reality of prison after visiting so many. He built up like 3 corridors, 50 cells, 2 floors, like a real prison. And he really hired ex-convicts as consultant and as a cameos as well, and actors. Oh, Maria Elena, hello. How are you? Good to see you. I see you.
Wait, I'm unmuted now. I'm sorry. I have a very bad cold, so I'm not talking a lot. But I just thought I'd mention that at the time this movie came out, I was I've been working with formerly incarcerated people for about 17 years or something. So I was really just getting interested and involved in working with them. And when I saw this film, I had to compare it to what I knew of the way we do prison dramas in the US. And at the time, there was a long-running TV series on HBO called Aude by Tom Fontana, who was a playwright and had done Homicide and all that. And just to compare the ways they depicted like murders and tribalism and everything was so different from this. And I would say that the protagonist's story totally represents what happens to teenage offenders who go into prison here in the US. It seems to be like universal. They all know what it has to be, and it is very brutal. But what really struck me about this movie, as violent as it wasn't glamorized violence the way we shoot here in the US, which is slow motion knifings and deaths and all that. It's very abrupt and very sort of uncinematic. And that I really appreciated in this film. So yes, it was hard to watch because that is how it actually probably happens. Not that we've ever seen it. Whereas here, any violent film we see in the US is so beautifully shot and rendered in slow motion, and they have final words. You can't believe it. So I really appreciated that. And what I found actually more violent than this film was Meyreen, the miniseries Meyreen. Anyone see that?
Haven't.
That's harder to watch than this movie. Just my 2 cents.
Thank you very much, Maria Elena. That's a very interesting comment, and I always appreciate when we can have a comparison between the French and American cinema. So thank you very much. And as Maureen said it just a few minutes ago, it seems like prison is also a school, the perfect school for crime, because Malik, when he enters jail, he's a kid and he didn't do much, and he becomes like a real murderer, tough murderer. So it's a coming of age drama. It's a prison drama to start with, but it's also a coming of age and education drama. And I'm curious to hear you on what Malik has learned throughout the film, because he keeps learning and learning and learning. I don't know if you noticed, but he's learning many things during the film. Not only to kill.
Can I say something?
Sure.
I don't know if you see my hand or not. So actually, I also have a question on top of yours for everybody, because although he learns all along the movie, I feel like he's really smart from the get-go. Like, he's a very smart cookie, and at first his reaction to me are just because he's young and he doesn't want to maybe show or he doesn't know how to express the fact that he doesn't have a formal education. But I wonder, and that's my question, I wonder what you guys are, if you agree with me that he's really smart from the get-go, or he becomes smart.
Anyone wants to answer the question, Pascal's question?
Anthony's raising his hand.
I will go again. I totally agree with what you're saying. He started out literate, and he became literate in French, became literate in Italian. I mean, how in the world did he learn Italian? He remember he was taking all those college courses and doing well in tests. He clearly was portrayed as naive to begin with, but extremely intelligent for most of the film.
Thank you,
Shockingly intelligent, actually, for someone who had his background.
yeah, thank you, Anthony. Anyone else? By the way, just to be precise, he's not learning Italian, he's learning Corsican. Corsican is a language spoken in Corsica, sorry. So it's another language. So he learns Corsican for sure. He learns to write and read because he couldn't when he entered jail. And can you remember what Rayab, the guy he kills, tells him right before he kills him? Do you remember this sentence?
Oh, I don't.
Maria Elena, we'll answer that later. Maria Elena has her hands up. Do you want to say something?
Yeah, I don't remember the line, but I can just tell you, as somebody who was taught in prisons and juvenile hall, you always have those standout students who, by the time they leave, they could have PhDs. They're that good and that smart. And sometimes they're just doing that to plan their next move. But I am just stunned by the handful of people you will meet there and say, you could have been a professor, you could have been something, but those opportunities were not there for them. So I was not surprised when I saw how far he got in his studies. So
Thank you, Maria
I wish
Elena.
I could remember that line. I can't.
So I will, from what I remember, he wants to lend him a book, and he says, what you need to do is when you go out to jail, you need to have learned more than what you knew when you entered jail. And I think Malik takes him by the book, and that's not innocent that he becomes his ghost friend and a leading figure, learning figure for him. So there are many father figures or professor figures in the film. There's the ghost because of this sentence. And who else are there? Who teaches him things? Jay.
Hi, I just wanted to say that what he tells him, the ghost tells him learn to read. And I think you know, the title is interesting. Like, obviously the prophet could be Muhammad, but it could be, you know, reference to Muhammad Ali or whatnot. All of that brings up the history of colonization that, you know, is obvious, where, you know, you have the French colonization of the Arab and that playing out in jail. So I think, you know, the question of like the law, you know, sometimes can be unjust. And then we see people growing up in colonized situations, whether it's, you know, actually like country or a jail.
Thank you, Jay. So anyone wants to comment on the teachers figures in the film? What about his friend Riyad? I see Sylvia wants to talk.
Yeah. Yes, there are many teachers there in the film, but I wanted to comment also in the studies that he does. I think that he moves with a purpose, like the reason why he learns Corsican, or kind of Italian Corsican, it's because he's listening. He's listening at the other guys, and he's learning from them, and he's understanding what's going on, and the relationship among themselves and all the things that they say. So, and then one of the courses that he does is economics. So he's also learning how to move ahead his own business, and he's using the main Corsican guy for his own purposes. I can go out to do this man's business, but meanwhile, and at the same time, I do my stuff. So, well, and in reference to the people who are teachers, there's one called the prof. He was the one who taught him how to put the blade in his mouth, and then and of course the main Corsican guy who's giving him his
César, yeah.
Yes, César. He's giving him, he's teaching him how to be, and his friend also.
Yeah.
His friend is also, an important character in the film.
He's the one who's teaching him to read, how to read.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and he kind of sets himself for the future, like, you are going to get help my wife, and take care of the kid and everything. So he's a very important, and he's doing his business while he's in jail. Yeah.
I would be curious to hear someone talk about the relationship between Malik and César. Because he's not a real teacher, of course. He teaches him violence, but it's not what I would call teaching, because he forces him into violence. But it's very interesting what's happening throughout the film between them.
May I
Yeah.
say something? It almost seemed to me that, we see a piece of that life of prison through the experiences that Malik's time, but my sense was before Malik, there was probably somebody else with the court, with I forgot, I'm sorry, with César, that he probably went through a series or goes through a series of these sort of apprentices, or whatever you want to call it. So, and he exploits them, and then maybe they make it, maybe they don't, but they are in, even though he does say some very supportive things at times to Malik, but I got the impression that these people were just disposable, and he was using Malik because he's a little bit different than the rest of the Corsican crew to kind of keep an, he was using him. He was a spy. It was everything. But the tables were turned, because it was the scene where Malik speaks back to him and reveals that he's been learning Corsican, was taken as a threat to César. He took it as a threat. He doesn't have complete control. This guy is getting a little bit, so it was very interesting to me. And I do agree. I wouldn't necessarily, he learns from him, but he's not like a teacher in the way that we would think of somebody who's, is going to be supportive and actually cares about the person.
Thank you very much, Mira. Jade, you want to say something? No? And why do you think César picked Malik? There's an interesting scene at the beginning. He watches him through the bars of the jail. Why do you think he's been picked up to become the killer?
I have an idea.
Ed was
Yeah, Anne.
Sorry, I don't know where the thing is for my little yellow hand raiser. I'm looking all over and I can't find it. So I'm just doing this. I think he picked Malik because Malik was new and naive and an easy target. I mean, Cesar and Malik, it was a clear abuser and victim relationship. You know, Cesar ruled by bullying and violence and threats to everybody that was under him. And he continued that with Malik. And then Malik would, you know, go along for fear, trying to survive. And then once in a while he would rebel. And then once in a while he'd learn something and try and do something, have a positive conversation with Cesar. So, and then it would, you know, go south again. So it was a very, I think it looked to me like a very classic abuser and victim relationship.
Yeah, thank you,
He was an easy target for Cesar, unfortunately, and Cesar used him. So.
Yeah, Malik is an interesting character at the beginning because he has no sibling, he has no friends, he has no money, he has no religion. Remember when he's been introduced to the guard, he says he is not even a Muslim. He eats pork, he eats everything. He is a blank page. He has nothing. So he's an easy target for manipulation and he has no fear because he reacts back when he's been harassed and hacked by other prisoners. And it's interesting in terms of what in community-wise throughout the prison, because what Cesar is noticing is that he's not part of the Arab community too. He has no community. He's all alone. And I like, Anne, your remark about the evolution of the character, especially when Cesar realized that he's been learning Corsican. So he feels a little frightened by this relationship of master-pupil. And when the pupil is becoming to be more knowledgeable than the master, and up to the point of another burst of violence. Maureen?
Yeah, I think what comes to mind as you're talking about the manipulation, it was the first time Cesar shows fear.
Yeah.
You know, through the whole movie, he was the it man, he was in control. And towards the end, you could see it was the first time he himself, the tables were turned. He was the vulnerable one. And there was a real, as much as he tried to hide it, he was fearful. He didn't have his henchmen anymore. And he was the one who was alone.
Exactly.
At that point, yeah.
And you know about the servant relationship. It's always very dangerous to have a boy servant. And then you get to depend on him, and it's becoming dangerous. Yes, Anthony?
There was a great scene where Cesar was, I think, trying to form a friendship with Malik, and Malik brushed him off.
Yeah.
Remember, Cesar asked about maybe drinking tea. Why do you serve me tea? Why, you know? And Malik said, just because. I think that was a turning point in their relationship.
Yeah. And I like also that Malik is learning, but is getting even better than his master at being a blank face. You know, you never can read what's behind. I mean, he's so smart, so intelligent, but he never shows what's happening inside. Exactly like Cesar, but even better. So Cesar feels really, really disturbed because he doesn't know what the other guy is doing. And if he's up to something, he doesn't know. He has found a better a better hider than himself. And what about this last scene when Cesar gets bitten in the jail court? Anyone wants to comment on that?
Yeah,
scene?
again, I had my
Yeah.
hand. So it's funny because all along this conversation that we are having, all of us, I picked, and all of a sudden I just realized oh my gosh, this movie could totally, okay, aside from the murders, it could totally be the story in a corporate America or in corporate France, where someone sends and just does this coup and gets rid of the CEO in place to become the CEO himself. The strategy, and I totally agree about that face that he has with no where he doesn't show. He's so strategic, and it's like he has this plan all along, and he just climbs the ladder and does his bye-bye, General. I'm the new one in town.
Yeah, it's all about power, right?
But
And so
the power though comes from survival.
Yeah.
I don't know if this guy would have become le vizir à la place du vizir. I remember le calife à la place du calife.
Exactly.
I don't know if in another situation where he didn't have to survive, because the push to the push to survive makes him he needs to grow up very rapidly, or he needs to use his intelligence very rapidly to survive. So maybe he would have been a professor, like someone said, but maybe a president.
Yeah, it's
or
a good.
CEO.
I definitely think that the filmmaker's point of view is really to tell us that violence and evil comes from society, and it's not a natural thing that is in us. Definitely. And talking about this violence, this power relationships, it's interesting to see that there is almost no female character in the film. How did you feel about the representation of masculinity in the film? Because there are a lot of males in the film. Anyone? How do you feel about Malik to start with, compared to, for instance, other American heroes, like physically? We've been talking about it a little bit, but if you can dive a little more into it.
I think he appears to be sort of an underdog, you know, because of his youth, his apparent lack of experience in the, you know, except, you know, he grew up in care, but really with no support. And so to me, he is that, he represents that, he can represent that, despite what he does down the road, that sympathetic character who is, who, as I said, is the underdog, and or the other, you know, in a giant film full of others. So it does. You're rooting for him.
Yeah, exactly. You're rooting for him. And the fact that he's a very realistic character, he is not like a muscle hero, he's skinny, he's a very low profile. I think because of that, the viewer can identify to him better than to Al Pacino or any other crazy guy that you can see in American films. And that's really what's make the film very compelling, I think, because anyone can identify with this very everyday hero. You remember probably the scene where Malik's future victim is talking to him in the showers and offering him like a prostitute relationship. And what happens just next to this scene? If you remember, Malik is almost immediately taking a pornographic magazine. How do you understand that?
Oh, I see. I'm sorry. Thank you for putting that. Okay, now I can say I love that those conversations because it makes me think about new stuff that I almost didn't realize watching the movie. Of course, what happens in the shower is offering actually a homosexual relationship. So I guess although he refuses from the get-go, he's probably kind of he needs to go into his masculinity to balance it out, because all of a sudden he's been offered an homosexual act, and he needs to go into the woman as a sex object.
Certainly.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Pascal. You may. I think you got it right. And of course, it's a very male environment, and a place where all feminine side of any guy is really totally repressed. And it's not a coincidence if all his friends have this female side in them, the ghost, of course, which he totally fusion with throughout the film, because the dialogue and they're just one. And also his friend, who's less violent than all the others and is more intellectual. And so I think there's something to do with this repression of femininity in jail. Maybe let's go back to the ghost. It's very interesting, this figure, because it's not that easy to understand why this guy he killed so brutally becomes his closest friend throughout his journey. Do you understand why?
You're talking about the ghost?
Yeah, the ghost.
But he's also he's the ghost, but he's also the guy that propositioned him, you know, that there was going to be a transaction, or he offered a transaction. So I thought that was really interesting, that even though he was sort of repulsed by the idea of this real life transaction, and only went through with at least appearing to do it because he was forced to, and he didn't even, there was no sex act. He killed him before that. And then I didn't expect it. I thought he would be sort of haunted, horrified, and maybe for the first time he was startled, but it's almost like he welcomed him, and it was this thing that he could have that was all his own, and he could be himself, and he relied on him to confide, to be able to confide in him, his feelings, and would even call out to him. It was just, I mean, there are one can interpret that in many, many ways, but I just thought it was beautifully done and very humane, and also this element of the supernatural.
Yeah, exactly. I really appreciated this ambiguity and the spirituality it adds to the story. And going, so the film is called A Prophet, but there are other references to the Bible, to religion. Have you noticed a few of them? Yes, Renee.
Well, there are a couple of things. I mean, the whole concept of Lazarus, I think, is very relevant in terms of the ghost, but also it's very clear that when he goes back into the hole, it's 40 days and 40 nights, and segue into you know, as it all concludes, it's, yeah, there's definitely a biblical tone behind the plot, or as part of the scenario.
And why would you say Malik is a prophet?
Can I say something first?
Yeah. Sure, Pascal.
As far as your past question, the very last one, all of a sudden I'm thinking also, Malik reveals himself through, like the revelation of him is through that first act of killing him. And no wonder he becomes his ghost, because he's the godlike, because that he revealed him to himself, if I make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all I wanted to say. Sorry.
And he's the one who assigned him to read and learn.
Yeah, because his teacher is more moral, in conscience, all of that.
Yeah. So anyone has a clue about the concept of a prophet? Why Malik, why the film is called The Prophet? It's curious that it's not such an easy question.
Well, I think that the first time that he's called actually the prophet is when he foresees that there's going to be a deer in the street, and they are going to hit the deer, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Because he's foreseeing things. I think he's the more intelligent. It's of course a spiritual reference, but it's also an intellectual one, I think. To say that Malik is really an exceptional hero. And
Or anti.
Sorry?
Or
Anti-hero. And he has a journey of spirituality with his companion, ghost companion. So how do you, we've been talking about it a little bit, but what's your interpretation of the final scene? I think some of you liked it because it's a happy ending after all these hardships. Yeah, Renee.
Well, the final scene to me, first of all, I don't see it as a happy ending at all.
Yeah, interesting.
You know, we're now at the point that prisons in France, that violence breeds violence. We now know that he's, you know, the 3 cars, he's got the protection. There's this sort of you see the humanity of Malik with Rayad's wife, and he's going to perhaps help with the family and live with them. It all looks very clean until you hear the music, which is Mac the Knife, which is, you know, the 3 penny opera. The you know, Mac the Knife was the knife wielding killer in London. So it's very, you know, I think the ending is just fabulous. I mean, it's a song that unless you know where it comes from, a lot of us can remember it from, you know, hearing it at clubs. It was a very popular song, but it's an evil, you know, I guess written by Kurt Weill, if I remember correctly. But it's you have a wonderful balance of humanity, violence, and then this incredible piece of music at the end that defines the whole thing, in my opinion.
Thank you so much, Renee, for this very interesting interpretation. And I totally agree with you. Ambiguity remains until the very end, and I love it because it's an happy ending, but it's not as well at the very same moment.
No, I mean, what are those guys going to do in those 3 cars unless he's going to continue this violent life of drug dealing and murder? I mean, they're going to be out of a job. No.
Yeah, it's like it's starting the like the next movie could be The Godfather.
Yeah, exactly.
Totally starting this new life.
Yeah.
So we're coming down to 5 minutes. We're 6 minutes left. Are there any? I just wanted to give you a heads up, Aude, on the timing in terms
Thank
of.
you very much. Anne has something to say. Oh, you're mute, I think, Anne.
Sorry. I agree. The ending was sort of just showing, his release from prison was sort of an interlude of calm before the next thing he gets into. I mean, it's clear, because I think he's been sucked into that way of life, and I don't think he's going to be able to get himself out of it. Thank you.
Anyone else? So we've been talking to the last musical piece, but how did you receive the music throughout the film? Alexandre Desplat is the composer, sorry.
I mean, the music weaves in and out in all sorts of different genres, I think, that really define each particular instance. The music is brilliant, and we know who the composer is, but strategically used with the cinematography to create the environment of the film, I think.
Exactly. It really goes with the camera, following the tensions and the very different tonalities of the film, whether it's a little eerie and surrealist or when it's very brutal and realistic. It all goes with the flow of the camera, with the close-ups when they are, because the film is very oppressive, claustrophobic at a certain point, with lots of close-up shots and tight spaces, and the music really goes along with this camera work all the time. It's a character in itself.
Well, it also defines the character of Malik, because I know we don't have much time, but I think every way that you see the cinematography is so tight and so specific. There is always in this new actor's face, and maybe it's because this is Taha Rahim as he's beginning his career, just a hint of innocence in his face, which is not rehearsed. I mean, which is rehearsed, which is there on purpose because of Jacques Audiard. But that's why we're rooting for him, because even with all the evil that's in this character, even though he's a coming of age, there's always that gaze of innocence.
Yeah, it's so interesting. So a prophet is also the revelation of an actor, for sure. Maureen?
Oh, I guess my final word is, for me, it was, it's the car following him, leaving with his, the baby and the widow of his friend. But I think it was very touching that finally he had somebody who cared for him and who he never had that sense of belonging to anything. And now he felt he did. He actually had somebody that became his world, because he was never a part of anything. It didn't seem like, even as a youth, he had anybody who cared for him or that he cared for anybody. He was always alone. So I felt he had a sense of belonging, be it whatever the sequel is going to be. But I thought that thing was touching. I don't know. Maybe I'm sentimental, but I was happy that he actually found his place and he had a quote unquote family of his own.
Yeah, it's a family. He founded a family, definitely.
Good cover for his new life in the drug world.
So do anyone wants to say a last word before I hand it over to Renee to wrap it up? No? Well, Renee.
Okay, so first of all, we want to thank you so much, Aude, for this wonderful film that I know we all discussed, because as Aude said in the beginning, Jacques Audiard has a very interesting film at Cannes that's gotten a lot of press and that we're rooting for in many respects, because it's a very different film. And then I just wanted to say that please make sure that you register for the June 24th program, and it's A Taste of Things, which I don't know if you guys if anybody has seen it, but if you love food, if I cried in this film, because there's preparing and cooking and experiencing this incredible film is very emotional if you happen to be someone that loves to cook. So we look forward to welcoming you back. Please sign up at afusa.org, and we also look forward to welcoming back Aude And thanking you so much, Aude, for providing us with questions that have brought a wonderful conversation together.
Thank you very much, Renee. It was great to having you. Your answers were so good and so strong and so insightful for me too. Thank you.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Chen.
Bye-bye.